Would a great innovator give up so easily on that promised future?
I won't. I'll find a way to save us all.
Welcome guys, End of Dragons Daily 101. Footage in the background will be of a PvP game. Hopefully you guys enjoy. It's a weird game because first, it's the first game of the season that I've played. I haven't PvP'd for a while, and this is the one game I've played. Secondly, it's weird because I'm distracted playing it. It's with my immersive UI, so I have like really low awareness. I can't see where people are moving and stuff. And finally, it ended up as a perfect game. Every top stat, 0 deaths, we won. And it's on my kind of new build concept. This is going to be a weird part because we've got some news, and it's really cool news. I've got a lot to talk about and run through with you guys. However, it's on like a really, really precise, like kind of small thing. So who knows how long we'll really be talking about it. If the timestamp on the video ends up a bit short, then hey, maybe that's fine. I have other projects going on. There should be, right as you're watching this, a video about strike missions that I spent a good chunk of time yesterday working on. That hopefully you guys will enjoy. It's kind of my candidates for the favorite strike missions they could put out. But what's this news? Well, it's about the elite specializations. I was thinking we would get a blog post maybe, perhaps a stream showing off more of the Virtuoso, and then they'd give us a little bit more about this Necro teaser, the guy with the pistol. So this silhouette you guys can see on screen right now was what they revealed at the live stream. And then following that, we would then segue into something else once we were getting those Necro details. The devs have got another idea. Here's a tweet from Guild Wars 2 in which they tease another one of the elite specs. So let's be clear, they're doing a beta where it sounds like we'll be able to play 3 at once. Does that mean we now have the silhouettes of all 3 of those original ones? Well, here's what they say. Guild Wars 2. Looking forward to more Guild Wars 2 End of Dragons Elite Specializations. Watch the next episode of Guild Chat. That's on August 13th for more info on the Virtuoso and 2 more Elite specs. In the meantime, here's a preview of one of them. What do you think it is? So, the 13th is not this Friday about to come up. It's next week. We're 8 days away from that, so plenty of time to speculate about what they're going here. My guess is that the stream will be Virtuoso, Necro, and then this person, which is 2 light armors, and then whatever this thing is. So I don't know whether they're really going for any patterns there. Here's a full-size image of the silhouette for you guys to marvel over. And well, immediately, I think there's quite a few interesting things to say. First of all, it's clearly dual-wielding swords. And if you remember back to the icons, here, I'll put these on screen. We've already talked about this dual-wielding ninja-esque looking sword guy. Me and Boots speculated, and I've continued with the speculation, that this would be Thief. Offhand sword, Thief. And maybe what we're looking at with those 3 diamonds are initiative diamonds. They'll be playing with initiative in some fun, new way. Well, another concept that I believe I highlighted on End of Dragons Daily, Boots and I actually weren't talking about at all, was that instead of those being initiative diamonds, they could be the 3 diamonds for virtues. And in fact, what we're looking at is Guardian. Now, I didn't really buy that too much. It's kind of a fun idea doing Guardian dual-wielding swords with kind of something more dynamic, a little bit more acrobatic, especially when you look at Almora during the Icewood Saga. She's dual-wielding swords. I was very close last week to making a video where I show off kind of what I believe many of those hits to be. But the funny thing is, I don't know when they were designing Almora and so on there, and they implemented that, whether they really had plans for End of Dragons already at that point. Had the expansion decision been made? I don't know. It would have been right around that period. And still, what were they going to do with Elite Specs pre-End of Dragons? Was the idea going to be they'd filter them in anyway? And Almora was always a reference to their next Guardian idea? So anyway, I was kind of more of a fan of the medium armor Thief concept than Guardian, but it was on the table. And when we immediately look at this silhouette, well, it still felt initially very thiefy to me. But here's the thing. There's actually a little bit of color on this. I haven't really gone back and looked at the other silhouettes they did, but I'm assuming they were pure black and white. This one actually still has a lot of color data on it, and in fact, if you look closely at the video right now, you'll see there's a little bit of blue accenting here and there, and then there's a little bit of color on the armor too. Blue and red. Instantly over on Reddit, this was discussed. Chocolapic, who is often on my streams, a fantastic member of the community, bumped up the lighting, just the brightness. That's it. Didn't mess with the colors at all. And this is what came out. Now, blue and red could kind of just mean Kurzik and Luxon, and it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the color coding of the professions. But then, obviously, we think blue, we think Guardian, and here's the other thing, that armor that you're looking at there, while the stance is quite, you know, dynamic, there's a lot of movement there, the armor is actually heavy armor. Like, it's actually very specifically, obviously heavy armor. It's the Warlord's heavy armor that you can get from playing PvP seasons, and you'll get, like, a free exotic armor piece every week when you play in World vs. World. And here's another community image of the enhanced color version side by side with heavy Warlords. You can really see how close the details are. Just as a sidebar, in tandem with my new player videos that I'm doing at the moment, any new players listening to me right now, you really should look into doing World vs. World or PvP, because the free stat selectable exotic armor you get there is fantastic. And that's the Warlords stuff. So if this guy's in heavy armor and there's a little bit of blue in it, I actually start falling much more on the Guardian side and the idea that those are 3 virtue-oriented icons. To be honest with you guys, the idea of like a very ninja-esque, acrobatic style dual-wielding sword guy is more exciting to me on Thief. The thing with Guardian main hand sword, which we already have, is it doesn't feel very like slashy. Yeah, it has a teleport on it, but it's kind of magical and it's kind of jabby and stabby and stationary. And so the idea that you would just have those 3 skills as we already know them, and then you dump an offhand sword on next to it, it doesn't really excite me that much. It doesn't really make me feel like this pose would amount to much. But it could be exciting. I want to remind you guys, they did say that they are breaking rules with this wave of elite specializations. Now, that could mean 2 things in the context of this discussion. It could mean that when you slot this spec, they'll revamp the main hand sword skills too, and we can have our cake and eat it too. Then we move into this place where it's like they're kind of taking away regular Guardian sword abilities while you're on this elite spec, and do people want that? That's a discussion we've had several times, but I do want to park it just in our minds. They might do that. Another rule that they might be breaking, which was discussed a lot on my stream yesterday, is the idea of armor. Now, as Guild Wars 2 is currently built, heavy, medium, and light armor doesn't really mean much for stats or gameplay. Not really. I mean, it does have some meaning, but not much. But what it does also then do is kind of restrict certain professions, elite specializations, to only ever being in a certain bucket of aesthetics. One of the rules that might be really smart for them to break in terms of having a lot of new concepts and fun stuff to play with in the coming years, not just this 9 elite specs, but the next 18, the next 27 or so on. A really smart rule, I think, to break is to take away that armor class designation. What they can accomplish with that is, say, a thief who's in heavy armor and is a little bit more of a bruiser, dual-wielding swords, and you can have like the Wakizashi, Katana, or Tanto style situation that I think a lot of people are looking for in kind of a samurai-esque spec. And they might be going in that way, and it might still be a thief because that's the rule that they've broken. It might sound, as far as the game mechanics are concerned, a little bit of an irrelevance, and I kind of get that, but in terms of just pure aesthetics, and that is important to people, I can totally see it happening. And what's the cost? Just allow that elite specialization to now equip heavy armor as well as medium if it wants. I mean, you don't even have to force them into heavy armor. I doubt the devs would actually do that. That would become a bit weird and annoying with equipment templates and gear swapping and so on. Another subtle value here is now, let's take someone who only ever plays Thief, ever, that's all they do. Therefore, they've only ever been invested in getting medium armor, and they've got, say, their medium legendary stuff. Well, now you give them an elite specialization where heavy is available to them, and suddenly there's a ton of new items that they might like to go for. There's a bunch of new fashion wars that becomes accessible while they're on that elite spec too. And just consider, this isn't just a thief thing, this works in a lot of different places. Like, let's take a Guardian. Imagine if the Guardian is getting light armor. Well, now you can create something that matches a Guild Wars 1 monk kind of caster support a lot more accurately. Let's take this new icon for End of Dragons here, or that we're saying is Revenant, and it looks just like the Guild Wars 1 Ritualist icon, just tilted. Well, hey, maybe that is a Revenant becoming a Ritualist, and it's because he's getting access to caster armor. I mean, then there's a whole other story about how Carla already kind of gets spirits, so what do you do for Ritualist if it's not spirits? But that's beside the point at play here. So those are really the big 2 candidates. Is it a thief who's now allowed to wear heavy armor, or is it a Guardian who's maybe getting their main hand sword skills changed much, or it's just a deceptive silhouette and, you know, main hand sword isn't going to change at all. And it's not that I think main hand sword has to change. it could be exactly the same after all. There is a bit of mobility on it for sure. So that's the big question, and the Guild Wars 2 Twitter seems to know it. Just before I started recording this video, they threw this up. They say, we've been watching your replies to our question with interest, and most of you are guessing either Thief or Guardian. We'll tell you for sure on the August 13th episode of Guild Chat, but in the meantime, here's a poll, and they are polling people. 60% of you are saying Guardian, and I have to say, I think that's a really good, safe, comfortable guess. The combo of heavy plus like the blue side to it just makes too much sense to me. What I really want to do now is go back to the Icebreed Saga, play through the Darkrai Delves, and see what Almora was doing with her dual-wield swords, and how fun that really looks like it might be as a Guardian. And what that would mean as well is our first Elite Spec beta is probably going to be Mesmer, Necro, and Guardian, with the other ones coming a little bit later on down the line. Let's return to the Elite Spec icons here. If we are assuming, therefore, that number 3, with the crossed swords, with the 3 icons, the virtue icons, as I now think them to be, if we're assuming that is Guardian, then the question becomes, where is Thief? And well, now I actually kind of think Thief might be icon number 5, the Oni-looking mask. Oni in Guild Wars 1 were demonic assassins of the assassin profession that would jump out of the mist to shank people, and so I think that might be like an Oni mask idea where they blend what Guild Wars 1's interpretation of Oni were with, you know, maybe what we find real-world mythology, the idea of Oni, and that's something that we'll get more details on at a later date. Of course, then, if number 5 is the Thief specialization, the question then becomes, what's the Warrior specialization? Because my original idea was that. Well, now I think the Warrior might be Bullet, and it might be Pistol offhand for Warrior, so we can kind of be like a Ritlock pre-Revenant existence. And maybe that's how it all shuffles through. I don't know, there's this whole domino effect. You guys can definitely say down in the comments what your favorite ideas are on this one, and I'll be very keen to see what you all have to say. So that's it really for End of Dragons Daily today. Let me know what you think about a short, sharp episode on a specific bit of news like this. I do think it's very cool, and I know that this all came out yesterday, and a lot of you guys already had this discussion with me on my stream, but it's nice to talk about. I do want to point out, guys, just a little bit of other news. The Spud Club is now full, both EU and NA. We have 500 members in each branch. But we also have a lot of people who haven't been online for months and months and months. So with a view to making sure the guild is even more active and as, you know, filled not just with 1,000 members, but people who are regularly playing the game, applications are now changing a little bit. You can find the details on Discord. It's still basically just a question of, hey, send me a mail in game. You can now get in for free, but people who end up inactive for weeks and weeks and weeks in a row are going to be kicked more aggressively. That way, I'm hoping to have a stronger core, as now people have to basically fight each other for spaces. And it's nothing crazy, you know, there's a lot of people still in the guild who haven't been on for like 6 months. You know, they'll be the first to get kicked. Generally, if you're even remotely active in the game at the moment, you're 100% safe. And the other thing is still at play with the Spud Club, which is that if you come to guild missions, if you do one of the events, you get a better rank in the guild, and that rank will save you from being kicked. Instead of being kicked, you would just be demoted. It acts kind of like Aegis or a stability stack for you, and you know, it would buy you even more time. So hopefully that's all good. Any funds recently raised through new apps as End of Dragons news has been going on, don't worry, that's still there and will be used for the giveaways and the progression and whatever else is going on, as was already the case. No one's actually losing out on anything on this one. It's all in the name of having the community be as active and as fun as it possibly can as we go forwards. And thanks very much for watching and continuing to message me in game, guys. It's been really, really cool. Thanks for watching. Let me know anything you like to think about the Elite Specs down below. And yeah, keep an eye out for my strike mission video. Really, I'm very, very inspired with that news. I think not enough people are inspired, and I want to show you just how badass it could be with them repurposing some old content. So yeah, cheers, guys. Thanks very much for watching. I'll see you in the next one very, very soon, which will be the trailer analysis. I know it's been shunted back a bit several times this week, but we will get there. So thanks, everybody, and I'll see you very shortly. Take care now.